welcome to the Goonies panel.
Hey.
We have two absolute legends here today. The iconic Kerri and the amazing Sean Astin. Thank you so much for being here, you guys. This is an absolute honor for me. I'm going to ask a couple questions to kick things off. As soon as you guys warm up and I see hands going up, I'll start calling them out there. Just kick it off.
Look at all the notes he has. Are those notes for us?
These are notes for you guys.
That's a lot of, no questions. He should be able to, he really prepared for this.
I wanted to do enough homework here that, I would be like some sort of honorary, second-rate Goonie or something. But,
No, we're going to be all right. We're going to be all right.
It's going to be great. So, first question, I was just wondering if you guys remember where you were back in '84, '85, when you first, when the script kind of first came your way, and what the audition process was like.
Can we remember that far back? I can remember. I totally know. Do you know?
I remember, I think I had three auditions, and the first one was the casting director, and the second one was Steven, and then the third one was Richard Donner, all in New York. You were, sorry. And I remember in the audition with Dick, with Richard Donner, I was sitting on a couch, so I took off my shoes because the character was sitting a certain way. And then when I finished reading, my shoes were gone.
Dick ate your shoes?
He wanted to see like how I would react or something. So I kind of had this moment, where I was, and at first you think, oh my God, I did something wrong. I'm never gonna get this job because I lost my shoes, and then I realized he stole it, whatever. He thought it was hilarious. And then
that playful Dick. Weird. He's weird. He didn't hide anything from me when I auditioned.
Yeah.
Actually, he helped. My thing was I kept messing up, and I kept cursing. I did, because we were cursors out there in the West Coast. But
yeah, you guys were.
We were cursors. That's all it's my mother's fault. Okay. My late mother, rest in peace. She cursed all when we were children. It sets us off in a certain direction. Yeah. So, but Steven walked out.
Because of how many?
Well, I stopped. I said, oh, whatever, I messed up, and he got up and left. And I was like, oh, well, I'll never work again. That's a professional actor again. And then Dick came around, and he got down on one knee, and he looked at me, and he's like, all right. And he really talked to me, and he talked me through it. And he said, this is what I want you to do. And I honestly don't remember anything he said. I don't think I heard a word of what he said while he was saying it to me. But then I went, and I did the scene, messed up again in the same spot, cursed again in the same way, and then he said, okay, great. And I was sure that I didn't, I was like, well, it would be foolish to hire somebody who doesn't know how to do the lines. But I got the offer, so no one hid my shoes, though.
Well, speaking of Richard Donner, one thing that I always thought was like kind of a secret ingredient or secret sauce to the Goonies was, if you ever see him in interviews, he always comes across as a really warm, like almost fatherly type of guy. And I was wondering if you guys thought that was maybe crucial to the success of the film, or dealing with such a young cast. And if you guys had any stories of driving him crazy as kids, or?
Well, he's this big barrel-chested guy. He hip hop, but there's so he's loud and scary, but lovable at the same time. So I think what you intuited there is exactly right.
Yeah.
He was. What I remember is hip hop, where are the goddamn kids? That was.
It was Jeff, the
fatherly, the grandfather.
Yeah, and he did. He kind of engendered that chaos. Looking back now, as a kid, I don't think I understood that. I just felt like, oh, we're being bad.
But you were so stable. I remember you as just being calm and centered.
Yeah, well, you guys were insane.
I don't know if I'm ready for it to hear it.
Yeah, well, okay, let me get comfortable. No, they, the
kids,
yeah. Sean, Key, Corey, and Jeff were a couple years younger than Martha, Josh, and I, and they had a lot of energy. Right? Can I say that?
You can be absolutely honest. This is like an intervention.
No.
I'm totally I know, spastic.
Remember when they let you have like
Sugar.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they would time it. You'd be like, all right, give him a candy bar, and then like, oh, he's on the wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember
They
that.
were, and
They were so little. They were so cute.
Were we?
Yeah. But there was like, you know, it was, and so I think I did just get very like, you know, like they had to, like lots of times they had big wide shots or a couple people in the shot at each time, and then I think a lot of times for my line or Martha's line, they had to just, okay, we need this line, so they'd have to come in on a single and get rid of everybody, because it was just crazy. But it was, oh, I forgot what the question was.
Let's talk about Dick and his way of, you always felt like you were in trouble, but you knew he kind of liked it.
Right.
Yeah, that's
So it was like any family where you just try to figure out what the limits are, you know. I mean, it was, all you have to do is watch the movie. We're all talking at the same time, and
No,
you know.
listen to that DVD extra that
Yes.
was.
Yes.
funny, you know, you mentioned the talking at the same time too. I'm sorry, but that was one of the things Siskel and Ebert, you know, they hated, you know, about the movie. They're like, oh, it's a great movie, but the kids talk on top of each other.
I
But
completely agree with them.
I didn't know that.
No, I mean, there's
Real
like,
kids talk on top of each other.
they do, and so I guess it worked. But I remember watching, the big premiere was in Westwood, and at the Man National Theater that isn't there anymore. And it's a big theater, it's where they would always have these big things. And we go, and I remember sitting in the back and just like, can't understand anything anybody's saying. I thought maybe they would cut that part out. They make it so, you know, they would isolate the dialogue. They left everything in. The whole thing is, I think they were high the whole time they did it. Because the octopus thing is they leave in Key talking about an octopus that isn't there because they filmed the sequence, but they had actually recorded that line before the thing, so they just left it in. And like, you know, that's why they haven't made a sequel, because they would cut stuff out now. You know what I mean? They wouldn't know to leave the whole jambalaya thing in there.
Good stuff. So anybody warming up for questions out there, guys? Oh, that's right. Over here.
Hi.
Hey,
Do you remember me?
you look very familiar. Remind me how I know you.
16 years old and she knows all the movies.
Oh, okay, good. Shoot, yeah. My press agent, everybody.
I have 2 questions, if that's okay.
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, my first question is, you're a born-again Christian, correct?
No, I wouldn't call myself a born-again Christian.
What would you call yourself?
I'm Christian.
You're Christian.
Yeah.
How has your religion influenced your life and the decisions that you made?
I don't know. I think that my parents instilled a certain set of values in me. I think those are kind of like the wind-up doll. And then faith, my kind of faith experience is, it's funny because I've made 4 movies that are ostensibly Christian films. Like they're, you know, movies that were paid for by Christian audiences. I like the stories, I like the characters, and then when being interviewed for them, we talk about being a Christian. I don't know, I'm kind of angry at my Christian brothers and sisters right now. I think there's a lot of cowardice in Christendom right now. And so I think people need, so it's hard for me to talk about my own experience without expressing my frustration. For example, with the evangelical leadership in the country, I think they've totally abdicated any sense of moral authority in the last 18 months. That's not what we're going to talk about. So, anyhow, I'm brave, I say what I mean, and I don't know. What was your second question?
You've been in a lot of stuff, and a lot of popular stuff, but some of the stuff isn't as quite as popular. Are there some films or stuff that you would like people to see that, like, you know, may not be as popular as some of your other stuff, but still deserves the same amount of
Oh my. Deserves is interesting, isn't it? Well, no, I love that we're at this convention where the guys who put it on are really committed to screening films. Most conventions don't do that. It's like the amount of time, energy, and money it kind of takes away from other things, but these guys are kind of purists. So what deserves people's attention? I don't know. I try and love what I'm doing while I'm doing it.
Like, I recently got into the show Bunnicula.
Bunnicula is awesome!
Yeah,
Do you know what Bunnicula is? Do you remember that book?
I thought it was a book.
It is?
Yeah. I don't know the show.
We turned it into a cartoon. I don't think we ruined it.
when is season 2 coming out?
We're just about finished doing it anytime.
Yes, I'm so
Anytime,
excited.
yeah. I play Chester. Chester's the cat.
Okay.
All the characters, the animated characters I do, I have like one line that's the hook that reminds me of what I'm supposed to sound like. And for Chester, it's loud. It's the night of the living invasion! It's kind of loud. Have you done any animated stuff yet? It's like that, only quieter for most people. Thank you for your questions.
Thank
Yes.
you for talking.
The Color of Magic is another one that I love doing.
Yes.
You like that one? There you go. Okay.
I have that.
Terry Pratchett, the wonderful English author who passed away a couple years ago, was a friend, love him to death. He wrote 17 books in the Discworld series, and the first one is called The Color of Magic, and I played Two Flower. And Two Flower is the tourist. He's the first tourist to the Discworld. And he has a picture box. And if he wants to take your picture, he rotates the lever, and inside a little imp is drawing quickly. I need more cyan! I'm like, yeah.
Questions out there?
I have a 6.5-year-old daughter who's taking piano lessons, and I literally have said the line, is it an A sharp or a B flat? If you hit the wrong note, you'll all B flat. It's awesome. My two quick questions. First of all, Sean, was Kerri your first kiss? And did you guys get to keep any of the really cool stuff?
I thought you said, did you get to keep kissing? That would have been awesome. Do we get to keep stuff? Is that what you asked?
Like from the set, any of the props?
Well,
or anything?
do I remember something about you taking lessons or something with piano for the movie? No. Is there something, some like scene that got cut out of you playing the piano at home or something? Am I wrong on that?
Oh.
Is that just in my own mind?
Yeah,
I
it's
cook
in
things
your
up.
mind.
Okay.
Was that your first kiss?
First on-scene kiss?
Well, don't tell Andrea Canetti, but sure.
Oh, okay.
No, that you ask about the audition process. So I did screw up the audition. Like I think who I was the character, which is obviously why they hired me. But like in terms of hitting your mark and saying your line and kind of being an on-point, I wanted to be professional. I wasn't like distracted in that sense, but I didn't do it well. But they offered me the part, and the interesting thing was I was being offered at the same time. This was the golden age of 80s movies, and they were offering me a test deal. You know what that means? A test deal. It's they offer 3 actors the part, essentially. They make a deal, the financial deal, which is where you really start getting excited. I'm gonna be rich, you know, and then they bring you all in and then choose one of you. So 2 people have negotiated a deal and go home. So I was being offered a test deal for the Explorers. Remember the Explorers with River and Ethan? And I was like, so let me get this straight. I definitely get this job and I definitely get to kiss the girl. I don't necessarily get that job and there's no kissing of any girls. Yeah, like doing Goonies was not a hard choice to make. The funny thing was that I want to hear your side of Stephen shepherding that scene. Because do you remember it?
I remember, okay, he was really little. I remember feeling very inappropriate. And I remember, what I remember is he put the camera like down here, so the shot's up my nose. I hate that still. I should get over that. Should I not have said that? Maybe
No,
I shouldn't have. But,
anybody who's ever taken a selfie knows you hold it up here.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, exactly. So it's like, anyway. But yeah, I remember,
his thing was because of the thing that happened
like
with...
he had to tell me to like relax your mouth and stuff. I was all awkward. I used to be awkward. More so than
No,
now.
you weren't. No. So the story was that in E.T., Henry Thomas apparently was like gross after he kissed the girl in that famous sequence where he stands up on the kid and they've let the frogs go and the wind is coming in and he kisses the girl. So it was weird because what I remember is everything was kind of shut down. You know, normally when you go to the set, there's all kinds of cables leading in, and there's the crew, and there's people moving, and you walk on, and things are going, and there's like a lot of activity. I walked, this was like stage 20 or something, and I walked on, and I was excited. I've been looking forward to this from the time I knew that it was going to get to happen. I have 3 older brothers, so I was like, I played it chill though, right?
You were so chill.
I played it chill, so.
Did you know I was a nervous wreck?
No.
I was a
You were
nervous
the
wreck.
girl. Why would you be nervous? The girls are in charge. That's what I always understood. So Stephen.
Because it was just Stephen. Because it was the beat. It was like.
He wanted to direct his own unit.
Yeah.
Because he wanted to control all the variables so that there wouldn't be this discomfort. So I remember doing like 1 or 2 takes and it being over and being so bummed that it was over that fast and having to act, you know, professional, like, well, good, as long as we got that, great. Thanks so much. But and then they make fun of me after I leave. That sucks.
Who made fun of you?
I was like standing in a ditch or something, is what he said. Careful, he's standing in a, Brand must have been standing in a hole.
Oh, right.
Because I'm shorter.
Yeah.
I don't know. The whole life of that.
I need to watch that movie.
You know what? It's actually the most, according to Entertainment Weekly, the most outdoor screened movie, or at least of a couple years ago. Like, I'm always meeting people who, you know, we screened it on the side of a building in downtown St. Louis, or we you know, out, whatever. So it's fun to watch it with people who are, because it's like Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Yeah.
People know all the dialogue and they sing alongside. So I don't know if we kept anything. I kept the map and then lost it.
I have my.
Is that better than giving it away? You what?
I have the sweater with the A.
Oh.
I think I have the skirt too. Not sure.
I was gonna say.
But they didn't let us keep the jewels and everything. And when we first went on to that set, it was all our instincts. We were like, hot. And they were like literally checked our pockets when we left the soundstage.
I didn't keep anything.
And that was pretty. It was, you know.
We stole tons of stuff.
You guys did.
I had a bucket of doubloons in my house for like 10 years.
You had way more pockets than
I did have more pockets, yes, that's true.
I'm still dining out on that Goonies loop. I think there was a question in the corner there.
Yeah. Were you guys aware at the time, or was there a vibe on the set of what you guys were actually onto when you were making this movie? I mean, 30 years later, it still holds up. Everybody quotes lines from this one.
Well, I mean, it wasn't so beloved when it first came out. Would you agree with that?
Well, not like people quoting,
Not like
you know,
now.
when you say Goonies never say die for me, or it's our time down here, and, you know, $50 bills, and like, I don't think I really got the quotability of it. But like, you knew it was Spielberg,
Yeah.
so you knew when you went onto the lot, you know, we were like, I definitely felt like a big man on campus for that 3 months or 4 months or whatever. But like, I went back to 5 months, yeah. So I went back to school though, St. Paul the Apostle Catholic School, and I ran for student body president, and I didn't make the runoff. Me, Bobby Conklin. So like, how popular could it have been, a movie, if like I couldn't even get elected student body president?
Well, just riffing on that, saying that it wasn't necessarily as popular when it came out, was there ever a point later on, like in the 90s or in the early 2000s, where you're like, wow, this movie's on TV a lot, right? You know, these people are still, you know, was there a point where you started to realize, like, oh, this is bigger now maybe than it was then?
Yeah, when for you?
Today.
We're starting out slow with it. This is our Kerri's first, I think, domestic convention. So the fact that nobody's... I think it was probably around the 20th anniversary where people were saying, oh, it's the 20th anniversary, like that was a notable thing. And then I was campaigning for somebody, for a congressman who was on the education department, and his district was right where the Goonies house was in Astoria. So I went there with him, kind of campaigning for him, and it overlapped with the 20th anniversary, and saw thousands of people. Like, jeez, it was kind of a thing. And I think that's the first time that I realized that it was going, that really, I mean, right now, these Goonies shirts are ubiquitous. I mean, you can go through the airport and see people wearing Goonies shirts. You know, that certainly wasn't like that for the first decade or more. I'd say it's mostly in the last, like, 10 years.
Well, you know, it's interesting because you guys opened in the summer of '85, and you could easily make a case for that year or that summer being like the greatest summer in the history of film. And literally your summer competition was like Rambo, Rocky, Mad Max, James Bond, Back to the Future, Weird Science, Teen Wolf, Fright Night, Pee-wee's Big Adventure. You know what I mean? And we're still talking about the Goonies, so you know that's pretty amazing to be.
We can talk about those movies. I love those movies.
But you know, I was curious in the summer of '85 when the movie was coming out. Was there any movie that summer you were like scared to compete against, or even just like excited to see for yourself? Or
I don't think I was
we
thinking
thought of
that
that.
way.
Yeah. Like the box office now.
It wasn't as competitive back then, right? Necessarily, like,
If you had a bottom, if you were participating in the gross revenue, you know, like, you know, there were still varieties that were like, you know, the horse race of who was good. I didn't know any of that really. I don't, did
We
you
were
know?
still, no, we were still pretty.
Kids, yeah.
kids, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I know when I went in to do my audition at Amblin Entertainment there in Universal, backlot of Universal Studios, there was a poster of E.T., of R2-D2 handing a crown to E.T. It was a poster because E.T. had overtaken Star Wars for domestic box office. So I think I was aware of that there was a competitive thing about box office and stuff, but I mean, it didn't have a bearing really. It's not like now where Goonies coming out against, you know.
Well, now too, they always find a way to like, oh, it's the #1 film opening in the 3rd week of November on a holiday with a major snowstorm coming in, and they always find a way to say, we're the #1 this or the #1 that, you know. But
Talk shows. That's how I knew that it was a big deal.
yeah.
Did you do any of the talk shows around then? I remember I did one of the talk shows, and I was on. There's another kid, another guy, doing a movie. It had a robot. Can't remember the name of the robot, but do you remember the one?
Johnny Five?
No.
Oh,
No. Like 1985 studio movie about a kid and a robot. Not the one with Joey.
Deadly Friend, the West
No, it was like 3,000 something, 4,000, whatever it was. We were on this talk show together, and there was something about like which one of us was going to talk first, connoted which movie was like. I remember that was like somebody kind of. That's where the thought that maybe there was competition in movie space, but that really was not our scene. We were a big like Partridge Family bus going through the movie business.
That's awesome. I guess questions.
First, I want to say thank you. You know, I've seen the movie millions of times. I'm actually watching. My nephew's watching now, and I actually still have the program from the actual theater when it first came out. I was like 6 years old. I actually still have it.
That's from a land where they handed out programs for movies.
Right.
Awesome.
My question is, if there is a Goonies, or if there ever is a Goonies 2, where would you guys like to see the movie pick up from?
I'm sure have you answered this question a million times? No, I mean, would you be part of the sequel, basically?
Oh, would I be
Yeah.
part of it? Yeah, but he's saying, where would the
Where would it
sequel
pick up?
If there is, where would you like to see pick up from?
Well, I think the only way we could be in it would be if we were the next generation Goonies parents,
I think so.
which would be cute.
I
But
thought for the longest time.
I actually think we should do it now, like as old people. Put the sweater back on and stuff. We just have to stop and take Advil once in a while. That would be good. That's a good idea. You should suggest that. What did you think? What are your
Well,
thoughts?
Corey and I, people have been asking this question of me forever. And actually, Steven Spielberg sent me a poster a couple years after the movie. One of the one where the map is cut out, and it's the silhouette of the Goonies on the side of the hill. And he had written big across the whole poster, "Sean, I'm still a Goonie. How about you, Steven?" So the first time I ever, you know, conceived of the thought of a sequel is, you know, every movie you ever do, there's always like, oh, it should be a sequel. You know, it's Titanic, you can't do a sequel. It goes down, it's not coming back. But was through Steven. So, and when I talked to him on the phone, like sometime that year, it had to have been in '87, he said, well, he was going to wait till Henry Thomas was in his 70s to do a sequel to E.T. And then he said, but no, with Goonies you can go do younger. We don't have to be 70s for Goonies. It's not quite as, yeah, it's just different vibe. So he clearly wanted to do it. They have made, they've spent millions and millions of dollars having screenplays written that never got made. Steven just hasn't pulled the trigger on it because using the word secret sauce, I think they really don't know what they're afraid that if it's not magical like it was back then it's, you know, people will be disappointed. You don't want to do something people are going to be disappointed in. But Corey Feldman and I wrote a whole sequel outline. Yeah, it was good. It was fun. You were in it. You were in it. Your character, I wrote for your character that you were, well, you have to deal with you and Brand. And like you and Brand, I think we're like separated. I think we had you separated. There has to be drama.
Yeah.
But you had just been at Buckingham Palace, and which one's the younger one of the Henry? Which one's the prince? The younger prince? Prince William and Prince Harry. Harry knew that we were opening a museum in Astoria, and so he loaned you this really cool artifact from the time period, and for you to bring back. So when you came to the opening of the museum, you were like, oh, and it ended up being a really useful artifact that nobody could have known. But anyhow, it goes on. It goes on. So we go to Dick Donner to pitch this idea, and it's really involved, and he's listening to it, and he's listening to it. He has all these development executives around, or whatever, kids, whatever, I don't know. And Corey and I are going back and forth, and you know, telling the story, and Dick is just, eyes are closed, he's listening. He really looks like he's listening to jazz music. He's just listening, and afterwards he goes, wow. He goes, you guys spent a lot of time on that. We go, yeah. He goes, yeah, we're not doing that. So I don't know where to pick it up from, but your idea was good. I'll tell. The artifact that whatever the prince was, no, listen, you're like, so we're opening the museum, and the museum is where the old cave room where the pirate ship was. It's empty now, right? So there's a little lookout desk. And we realize, Mikey realizes that this gift that he's giving you is actually the key to a puzzle. So we go back into the cave room at the bottom of where the thing is. Like you walk, the water slide is like this, and you kind of walk down through the water slide with the you know, and there's little descriptions about things. And we take this thing and we put it in, and when you turn the lights out, it creates, you see the stars all in the cave room, and we put the little jewel in that you brought from the thing. It shows a map on the ceiling to.
This is so good.
Right?
How
It was good. It was
Yeah,
good.
that's really
That's more than I've ever told, but it's only because Kerri's here and it's fun. So yeah.
When are you guys making that movie? Make it happen.
I don't really pitch it, but you know, you see where I'm going.
You mentioned the ship, and I actually wanted to talk about that too. From what I've heard, rumors, you guys were supposed to be isolated. They made this giant ship, and they wanted you guys to be shocked before you guys see it. However, I also went to a panel with Corey, and he said that he snuck in one night and saw it beforehand, so he already knew what it looked like. Did any of you guys see it beforehand?
How did he get in beforehand?
It's Corey. I know he wrote a vampire in. I don't know. I don't know. Corey, had you seen it?
No.
You hadn't seen it?
No.
Did you follow the rules?
I did.
You're a rule follower. So were you, I mean, go ahead. I can't
Well,
wait.
what I remember, actually I didn't remember this. My mother remembered this. Tell me if you remember this. That they brought us all in. None of us, I guess, except Corey, had seen it before. And they, like, kind of, did you? Had you seen it?
I I
You
can
snuck
see
in.
it.
You did. You really did. I did not. However, who else snuck in? Everyone but me?
No, I don't know about everybody else. I know that I didn't sneak in. I walked by when the door was open. I kind of like wandering around the lot. And I walked by when it was open, but it wasn't that close to being finished. So it didn't look, the finished version didn't look anything like what I had seen. But, you know, this whole concept of we're going to get the kids genuine reactions because they can't act well enough to look surprised to see the ship. And they had, you know, it wasn't like digital age where you could have 15 cameras all over the place. Every camera had like 3 people that operated it, and you know, if one of the mags jammed, that was a thing. And so they had these like pontoon things or whatever, these scaffolds in the middle of the water where we did it. But go ahead. So what did your mom do?
What she said was, so they brought us in, like kind of, were we blindfolded? I don't know.
Yeah, they backed us in.
They backed us in, and they wanted us to get under the water, like, okay, well, whatever. They gave us like a certain count, go under the water, and after count to 3 or something like that, and then come up and see it for the first time. So we did that, but you know how earlier we were talking about all the cursing and stuff? Everyone was like, and all their expression, everything they said was unusable in the film because of the language, and so then we had to do it again. So what you saw was acting, as opposed to a real thing. That's what
Does
that work?
The cursing thing I think is just a steady state for me, but like there's cursing that's left in the
It was
movie.
a lot of improv, which ends up being a lot of
Yeah.
curse words.
Which is unnecessary. Like if I would go back, I would not curse as much. There's a couple of things where I curse and you're like, that kid's cursing because a grown-up let him and it's on, I don't know, I don't like it. But it just seems fake. But which is weird because the reason they left
I
it in
think
is
it's
because...
why it's still a big hit.
I think it's right.
I do.
I think it's true. Not just, the dynamic about,
No,
But
it's-
we, to me it was like, okay, we're going to have our reaction for the first time. It seemed stupid and insulting to me. But you're not going to say anything because you're happy to be at the party. And they backed us in to this thing. And I remember, it was a long time. We were standing there. I remember, it seemed to me like a long time. It seemed like 10, 15 minutes when, there's a pirate ship behind you that you're not allowed to see. Every second feels like a month,
Yeah.
So, and I don't know that the ship ever looked as good as it did with that moment because they had it all lit with the different water things, and sometimes if you're not going to see the back, you don't have to do water over there, but they had it all kind of going at the same time. And I just felt like a kid who had already seen the Christmas present, who had to act surprised so the parents felt good about the Christmas present. Oh, that's really,
Well, it makes you self-conscious about your original response. So like you're under the water and kind of saying, okay, I've got to look really, like how do I actually look? It was a weird combination of being authentic and acting and self-conscious and like you were hoping to give them what they wanted, and does this look good enough?
but it means something that they had an idea. Like it's one thing to you build a set and you go in and you're doing dialogue, and so the whole concept of the film is happening, but the idea that we're going to capture reactions from performers in this unique way. Like you wouldn't do it, like would you shoot a horror movie like that? We're gonna, the corpses.
Like actually kill somebody.
Yeah. Careful, these people are at a horror con. Know your audience? Maybe you do. I don't know, I thought that was a strange thing that they tried to do, but it's made for a story for all these years.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's... you need to get Martha. She'll be the
Oh yeah.
she'll
she
be the
remembers
deciding vote on
everything.
and she would have, if she would have seen it and thought they were full of it, I believe it if she said it. Yeah. It was a special set. People came from all over the known filmmaking world to take in that set. I think the set that had been on it right beforehand was the Ghostbusters set, speaking of great. The Zool,
Another movie you competed against that was re-released in the summer of '85.
You're talking competing.
Well,
Listen here.
I'm just saying, when you go up against movies like that, and 30 years
What
later,
do you
you're
mean
still talking
go up
about
against?
your movie.
He's trapped. Are you a journalist?
Yes,
Are you?
I'm working some negative angle.
No. You're just this. You're of this moment in time where everything's about competing. Sometimes the thing itself is what's cool, and the Goonies is a time capsule.
Yes.
It's a time capsule movie, and then like the whole concept of the map and the everything. It's
Time capsule.
it's beyond your Hollywood competition rates.
Very true. Very true. We had a question in the back.
I actually have a kind of piggyback question what you guys just talked about with the keeping some cuss words in and whatnot. I showed my friend Goonies he was like 18 years old, wasn't ever seen it. I showed him it and
He's American?
He is, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The hardest he laughed was when Jeff is watching the car chase. He's got the milkshake. And he goes up against the wall and squirts on him. He didn't laugh at that. He laughed at him going, oh, shit. And I just wondered, you guys know that was one of those that was ad-libbed? I mean, he was
Every
erratically laughing.
single curse was ad-libbed. There was not a curse in the script. Not a one, yeah. Right?
I think that's right. And I think Dick Donner would have luxuriated in the oh shit pizza, ice cream thing, whatever that was, yogurt.
Seriously, he was on the ground,
Yeah.
like, dying.
Yeah.
Just because of him saying it the way he did.
Well, I think they were better kids than I was a kid. Some of the like catchphrase lines that people have remembered for all these years are lines that I didn't like when it was time to do it because they didn't feel like they were real.
Yeah.
They felt hokey. And like hokey scores, hokey lasts. And I've had to tell myself that over the years. Like, you know what? Sometimes it's okay to be, I don't know, presentational or something, or like, you know, a little bit self-conscious. I don't know.
Besides James Bond, what character would you want Dada to be a fan of?
Besides James Bond.
Yeah.
So you're a Bond fan.
Well, I mean, like, because he already is a Bond fan in the movie.
Oh, are you asking about Data? Is that what you said? Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't even hear clearly. What, oh, interesting.
Because I talked with him, and he said he would want to be Indiana Jones.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Since he was short round.
Yeah.
I thought he would have said like Jackie Chan or something. He is, have you seen him lately? He's like, I love this man so much. I literally, like, I've been married for 26 years. If I wasn't though, I'd try and like jump into their family. They're such good, he and his wife are such good people and decent people. We joke around all the time. So yeah, let it feed back through fandom that, to Key that I thought Data was a Jackie Chan fan.
That's all last month.
Did you? Yeah. Me too.
I was always curious if you guys had any like fun moments when you reunited doing Encino Man with Key.
I think he was John then. He changed his name I don't know what to say, changed it. I don't know if Jonathan Kwan was on his, Jonathan Kwan was his legal name for a long period of time. And I think lately he's gone and retaken Key or sort of used that publicly now. So I don't know, he's got to answer that, but that's when you said that, I'm like, oh, John, I remember hating that movie so much I couldn't even see straight. I was like, I wanted to be a serious actor. I just played this like homeless person and lost all this weight, and I was like, I took myself way too seriously. Like, if one of my life regrets, if I could go back and redo Encino Man where I actually relax and enjoy Pauly Shore being silly and I mean, the best memory that I have of that was of Brendan Fraser and me playing video games in the dressing room. I mean, I've got some fun kind of like injury memories on that one, but Key, I didn't. It was like I was looking through the back end of a telescope at him, like, oh my God, there's my friend, and he was like so far away, and we didn't really do anything. I wish I could redo that time. Take that back. Take that time back.
Take that one back.
Anytime you heard that. Yeah.
I got two questions. Kerri, how was it working with old Corys?
Oh. Well, they weren't the Corys when I worked with them. So on the Goonies, the boys were kind of like a big whole group, I would say. And with on Lucas, Corey and I worked a lot, just the two of us. So I really felt very close with Corey Haim and Corey Feldman. That was like a big group, big family kind of. Sorry. Yeah, so they're just, to me, the sweetest boys. And I know, like, they're, you know, Corey's a grown man. And
Sort of.
Has, yeah.
Well, he came down to the photo op. Key and Corey and I and Corey's got one of the costume from his show. From his concert, and he's lit up. It wasn't just sequence, he was lights. It was all lights everywhere, lights. Yeah, and he was like, Corey, what are you doing? And then we took the picture, and they looked kind of good. But,
Yeah.
But go on, sorry. I don't know.
Yeah, so I mean, they were, when I was in college, once in a while I'd get a call from both of them, you know, but it was,
when they were becoming the Coreys.
when they were becoming.
Like the height of Corey Mania.
Yeah, I had kind of tucked myself away out of that world for a while, but you know, I never worked with them together. So to me, they're just two very separate people and very, you know, just both incredibly dear people.
The other question was, do you have any funny moments or stories about that you remember, moments that stand out the most, thinking back anytime somebody says Goonie?
There's so many.
One.
Well, I mean, there's just like, I mean, so much of it was just like, Michael Jackson came to the set, or we were at Dodger Stadium, or they flew us to Hawaii to play a joke on Dick Donner. Like, there's just so much. It was like you said, like a high.
There's a heightened period for sure.
Heightened period when there was money for jokes, or you know.
Nice.
Right?
Yes.
Like,
Money for
after
jokes.
the 80s, that didn't happen, but they flew us to Hawaii to play a joke on Dick Donner because he was sick of us and he was going to Hawaii. And we were there waiting for him. Like, just for a joke. They do not do that stuff anymore, but yeah.
Flight to Hawaii is not cheap.
So like that kind, like there's just a lot.
That story goes, the first time we'd heard the Cyndi Lauper song was there, right?
Yeah,
Didn't they play it
yeah.
was there? And like Ann Ramsey was there, right? And the Fratellis. And they delayed their kind of entrance to the party till after Dick had calmed down from seeing us like take over we took over the house. We turned everything over and then all of a sudden he looks, it's in Maui at his beach house, and he looks out towards the beach and just like in the Goonies, up come the Fratellis from the thing. I thought Dick was gonna his head was gonna explode. You know, all he could say through the whole show was, I can't wait to get away from you brat kids and get to Maui, you know? And, yeah. You know, some people send gift baskets, I guess, but like Steven sent all the Goonies. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think of Sloth. To me, the Goonies go from being a group of kids to being something bigger than that when you bring that character into it. And John Matuszak, the late great John Matuszak, was, you know, a killer with a heart of gold. And you know, watching him suffer through that makeup, like I don't even know how he did that makeup. It was ridiculous. But with his sound, you got like that kind of thing, makes all of a sudden, I don't know, just everything sets up. Everything kind of becomes something more than the sum of its parts when he gets into it. So when you say Goonies, to me, you kind of think him. Yeah.
I got a question for Sean. I'm like a big fan of war films. What was it like making Memphis Belle?
Memphis Belle was incredible. You know Memphis Belle, the World War II movie, air movie, B-17 bomber? Hate to break, well, I don't hate to, but you can't help but think about it today with what's going on in the Korean Peninsula. And America, you know, our country has this fascinating history with air supremacy in wars for the last, you know, since airplanes started, you know, since the biplane era. it's amazing that there's a whole world that lives at 20,000 feet. You know, you can, I don't know how to capture this, but we would fly in formation. We'd actually go up in these B-17 bombers, and you would see Eric Stoltz and Matthew Modine and D.B. Sweeney and Harry Connick Jr. and all those guys, like in the plane right next to you, like as far as we are. You're like, hey, good to see you, right? And then we kind of, the planes would turn like that, and firing those 50 caliber machine guns and doing the research for the character. They sent us all this information about the Second World War, and it was a pretty great. It was David Putnam. David Putnam was the who produced The Killing Fields and Chariots of Fire, and what's the one about with Robert De Niro? Anyhow, it felt like being a part of something important, and shooting at Pinewood Studios, which is talking about James Bond. They filmed there, so we were like on the Bond sets and stuff, and that was all pretty special.
Was that like real loud and everything going around?
Oh yeah. Well, the ball turret. You know what the ball turret is? It's a little thing underneath the B-17 bomber that is. It's like it's a rotating ball. Yeah, you have 250 caliber machine guns, and it's to guard the underside of the plane. And those guns are massive guns, and there's two of them, and you're kind of like in this cradle position, and they're going off right next to you. Yeah, that was awesome. That's awesome. Yeah.
Pretty cool. One thing I wanted to ask, actually, because a second ago you mentioned the Cyndi Lauper video. The thing I always wanted to ask Kerri is that of all the main cast members, you're the only one that's not in the music video. Yeah. Were you like already working on Lucas, or?
I was doing Summer Rental.
Oh, you're doing Summer Rental.
Oh,
another great summer you thought.
Yeah, we competed against him. That's a great movie.
That's a great movie. Love John Candy. So we have time for probably one more question, guys. We're not there.
This is very nerve-wracking, so I apologize if I stutter, but I wanted to ask how it was like seeing you got yourselves, like that first time seeing the Goonies, like to performances of one of your first movies. I can barely listen to myself talk in the video, so I was wondering how it was to see you guys up on the screen for the first time, like what it felt like. And do you still feel that way, seeing yourselves in movies to this day?
You know, I only have one memory, like one. I remember being in the theater. We were all in the theater, and I remember, like, your face takes up the whole thing, and you do this weird, like, detachment. Like that has nothing. That's who's that? Like it's a very strange thing. Your voice doesn't sound the way you think your voice sounds, and you know, I didn't go and see very many dailies or anything like that, so the whole thing was just, I just remember thinking like, where did that come from, or how did that happen? You know, it's just it was so different from your day-to-day experience. But it's funny, that's a good question, because I don't have people are in front of me, I couldn't see, I don't know.
That's so funny.
It was really
so Dick
crowded.
Donner was one of the only directors that I had heard of that wanted the actors to see the dailies. Dailies are, like, this is the old...
Did you watch them?
He insisted. He insisted. He actually set time. We wanted it.
I only remember watching them once.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe he insisted for those of us who probably needed it more. But his thing was, he thinks that it used to be that directors would like have a guard, you know, posted outside the editing room so the actors wouldn't see it, because if the actor sees it, they'll change their performance somehow, and which again is insulting. But Dick's feeling was, no, it makes them better. You know, that if an actor sees something, they want to do something a little different. So I think it actually, it's a compliment on a couple levels. It shows that he has confidence in who he's hired or whatever. But so I remember this one time, it was not too far from the commissary where lunch was, and it was one of the days my mom came. I had a guardian who took me to work every day, because my parents had a life. They were like, they can't do that every day. And I remember there was a scene there was a shot that Dick added in the basement before we go down in the fireplace, and it's so kind of self-conscious, but it's a shot where, like, it's the Robert Redford shot. Like, he looked, and the camera's just like this, and there's a shaft of light all starts here. Like, so, and I remember him wanting to shoot it, and like you just kind of like rise to the moment. Like, okay, I'm a matinee idol. Why wouldn't I be on this shot right now? And but my mom came and saw it, and she stood in the back of the theater, and I remember looking at that shot, that kind of like hero, gauzy, like golden shot or whatever, and looking at her, and she was standing there with eyes like this, and tears were coming down her face, and I was like,
Nailed it.
yeah, funny.
Unfortunately, we're just about out of time, guys, so let's give them a round of applause.